Welcome back. This is video 2 of the Pick and Place lab in Robot Studio. Alright, so last video we were able to get a simulation going, and now what we need to do is we need to close our gripper onto that first peg. I'm going to go ahead and reset. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to Layout here and right click on my gripper and go down to Move to Pose and Edit Poses. And I already have the two poses I need, my home, which will be closed, and my open. And so I'm going to transition my open from home, and I want to take 2 seconds. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to do that again. Edit poses, and as you can see from home it's 1 second. That's saved. So now I'm going to switch this to open and add that second, and there we go. So there are two poses. Okay, next we'll go to the controller and we'll go into configuration, I/O system. And here we'll build 4 signals. So right click signal, new signal, close gripper. This is an output, so digital output. And I'm going to say OK. Alright, so after we're done doing all this, we're going to have to restart our controller. How about open gripper? Oh, let's keep this the same way. This is also an output. And say OK. Okay. Another one. Gripper is closed. This is an input. And I'm going to say OK. And finally, gripper is open. And this is also an input. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and restart our controller. Okay, now I go to simulation, and I'm going to do some station logic. I have my signals, close gripper, open gripper, gripper is closed, and gripper is open. Alright, now I will need to bring in a few things. Now you see them in my recently used, but if you haven't opened them before, they won't be there. So we need to find our collision sensor in sensors. I'm going to put that in the middle. Okay. We're going to find our attacher and detacher in actions. So we'll bring those in. So under actions, we have a attacher and detacher. And finally, under manipulators, we'll get a pose mover. And we're actually going to need 2 of those. So I'll bring in the recently one because it'll be there now. Okay. Now this is just for the first peg. So under pose mover, I'm going to click on there. This mechanism is the gripper. And the pose we want, oh, it's not there. So I will need to close that, right click it, and click Properties. That'll give me that menu again. And we'll make this our open pose. So I'll apply that. And click on Pose Mover 2, and this will also be our gripper. And again, I have no pose. Okay. Now if I just click to a different item and then come back, now I can choose the closed, which is the home position. Alright. Moving on to our, I'll hit apply. Moving over to collision. This is going to be collisions between our gripper, and for this one we're doing peg 1. Apply. For our detacher, we're looking at peg 1 and apply. And for our attacher, we're going to use our gripper and attach it to peg 1. And I'll hit apply. Great. Now we have all of our signals in place. Okay, now we need to make our connections. Okay. So we're going to close the gripper. We're going to have that execute our close pose. When a collision happens, we want this to stop closing so it doesn't smash the object, because it won't be able to close all the way if the object's there. Alright, we want the open to tell that the gripper is open. So once we've executed our open pose, we're going to have that say the gripper is open. Okay. When the detacher is executed, we're going to have that execute the open. When the open gripper, that will also execute. Okay, and then we're going to have this sensor also execute the attacher. So when it senses the gripper touching the peg, it'll attach it. We're going to connect this parent gripper here to the parent gripper. It's the same gripper. And this child, peg 1, is the same as peg 1. This peg 1 child is also the same here. And for good measure, let's go ahead and tell it those are the same too. Okay. After the attacher is attached, we're going to say the gripper is closed. I can move these a little further apart. Maybe those connections will be more visible. Okay. And just a heads up, so this is just for peg 1. We're going to need a collision sensor for pegs 2, 3, 4, and 5, and attachers and detachers as well. But we'll just focus on one thing at a time. Alright, I think I have that right. Okay. So now, going back to home, I'm going to close this window, and I'm going to look at my path and targets. And what we're going to do is we're going to now start programming those functions into our loop. I'll do that in the next video. See you then.